Once upon a time in the city of Accra, there lived a young beautiful lady called Zara. She was the kind of woman who left men breathless. She didn't just walk into a room. She owned it, the click of her heels commanding attention before she even spoke. Heads turned, conversations paused, and for a brief moment, time itself seemed to hold its breath. She was that kind of woman, one you noticed, one you couldn't forget, no matter how hard you tried. Tall, with skin the color of the richest Ghanaian cocoa, Zara moved with the confidence of a woman who knew her worth. Her long, silky hair cascaded down her back, perfectly styled yet seemingly effortless. She didn't need heavy makeup, just a hint of gloss on her full lips, a subtle shimmer on her high cheekbones, and a gaze that could pull a man into the depths of his own desires. Men wanted her. Women envied her. But with all these, nobody really knew her. She was a mystery wrapped in silk, hidden behind designer sunglasses and a world of luxury. She lived in a penthouse overlooking the restless city of Accra, a place where the skyline met the ocean, and the night pulsed with energy. She drove a sleek black Range Rover, the kind of car that purred like a satisfied lover when it glided down the street. She didn't just wear fashion, she was fashion. Her dresses clung to her curves like they had been tailored by the gods themselves. But beneath the expensive perfumes and diamond-studded watches, there was something unsettling about Zara. People whispered when she passed. Some said she was a high-class escort, seducing powerful men and taking their money. Others swore she was a modern-day witch, using charms to bend men to her will. But the most chilling rumor of all was that every man who slept with Zara disappeared. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't loud. The men simply faded, one by one, like ghosts vanishing into the night. Their phones went silent, their businesses crumbled, and soon, even their families stopped looking for them. It was as if they had never existed. Yet men still chased her. They still bought her gifts, sent her messages at ungodly hours, and begged for just one night in her bed. And she gave them what they wanted, always with a smile, always with a promise of pleasure beyond their wildest dreams. Amongst these men was Kwesi. He was journalist with an obsession for truth, a man who had heard many stories about Zara to dismiss them as mere gossip. His cousin had been one of her lovers. And now, his cousin was gone. Kwesi wasn't like the others. He didn't want Zara's love, her body, or her attention. He wanted answers. But the truth was a dangerous thing. And what he would soon discover would make him wish he had never gone looking for it. Zara had a type. It wasn't about looks or charm. It was about power. The men who entered her world weren't ordinary. They were men who held influence, men whose names could open doors, men whose money could bend the world to their will. She didn't waste time on the desperate ones, the ones who tried too hard to impress her. She liked the ones who thought they were untouchable, the ones who believed they were in control. She let them think they had won her over, that she was just another beautiful woman eager for their attention. And then, when they were completely hers, they vanished. The first few disappearances were barely noticed. A married businessman who was rumored to have run away from his wife. A politician who had gone into hiding after a scandal. A nightclub owner who suddenly left the country, never to be seen again. But as the pattern grew, so did the whispers. People began to talk. Zara's name started appearing in hushed conversations at expensive lounges, in dimly lit cigar bars where men with deep pockets and deeper secrets gathered. Some said she was just bad luck. Others believed she had something more sinister hidden beneath her perfect skin. The rumors took a darker turn when a man named Daniel went missing. He was young, wealthy, and newly engaged. He had everything a man could want, yet he had been seen with Zara just days before he disappeared. His fiancée went to the police, desperate for answers, but no one took her seriously. Daniel was a grown man. Maybe he had chosen to disappear. But those who knew the truth weren't so sure. A pattern had emerged. Every man Zara slept with ended up gone. No goodbyes, no messages, just silence. And yet, there was no proof, no evidence of foul play, no bodies, no signs of struggle. It was as if they had simply been erased. Kwesi had been following the stories for months. At first, he dismissed them as gossip, the kind of nonsense people spread when they didn't understand a woman's power. But when his own cousin, Kojo, disappeared after a single night with Zara, he could no longer ignore the truth. He started digging. What he found chilled him to the bone. Kojo had sent a message to a friend the night before he vanished. A single text that read, "Bro, there's something weird about this girl. If anything happens to me, check Zara." That was the last thing anyone heard from him. Kwesi wasn't just looking for a story anymore. He was looking for revenge. But Zara was no fool. She could sense when a man wanted her and when a man wanted something else. And when she met Kwesi for the first time, she smiled in that slow, knowing way of hers. "Be careful what you're looking for," she said, her voice smooth like honey. "You might not like what you find." Kwesi should have walked away. He should have ignored the warnings, left the city, and forgotten her name. But he was too deep now. And the deeper he went, the darker the truth became. Because Zara wasn't just dangerous. She was something else entirely. And soon, Kwesi would learn that some mysteries were never meant to be solved. Kwesi knew he was playing a dangerous game, but he couldn't stop himself. He had spent months gathering information about Zara, yet he was no closer to understanding the truth. The only way to get answers was to go straight to the source. So he did something reckless. He let himself fall into her world. At first, it was easy. Zara was warm, charming, and effortlessly seductive. She didn't just flirt. She made you feel like you were the only man in the universe. Kwesi had prepared himself to resist her, but even he wasn't immune to her allure. Their first real conversation happened at a rooftop lounge, the city lights twinkling below them. Zara laughed at his jokes, touched his arm just enough to send a shiver down his spine, and looked at him like she already knew what he wanted. "You're different," she murmured, tilting her head slightly. "Most men want me for the same reason. But you want something else." Kwesi swallowed hard. "What do you think I want?" Zara leaned in, her lips inches from his ear. "The truth." And the truth was coming. Faster than Kwesi could handle. Kwesi had thought he was ready. He had spent months preparing himself, studying Zara, collecting evidence, and weaving through the tangled rumors. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for the truth. It started with a simple invitation. Zara had been watching him, that much he knew. Ever since their first conversation, there was a shift in the way she looked at him. Her usual indifference had been replaced by something else, curiosity, maybe even amusement. It was as if she knew he was different from the others, that his intentions were not like the men who came before him. And instead of pushing him away, she had done the opposite. She had drawn him in. One evening, she sent him a message. Just an address. No time, no instructions, no explanation. It was reckless, but Kwesi went. The address led him to an estate in the hills, far from the city. The house was modern, surrounded by high walls and thick trees. The kind of place meant to keep secrets buried. When he knocked, the door opened on its own. Zara was waiting inside. She was dressed in black silk, her hair loose, her bare feet silent against the marble floor. She held a glass of red wine, swirling it slowly as she studied him. There was something almost predatory in the way she smiled. "You're brave," she said, setting her glass down. "Or maybe just foolish." Kwesi took a steady breath. "I just want the truth." Zara tilted her head. "And if you find it, what will you do with it?" Silence hung between them. He had no answer. Because the truth, whatever it was, felt closer than ever, yet far more dangerous than he had imagined. She walked toward him, the scent of her perfume thick in the air. "You've been chasing ghosts, Kwesi. But ghosts don't disappear without reason." He clenched his jaw. "What did you do to them?" A slow smile curved her lips. "What do you think I did?" His heart pounded as she reached out and traced a finger down his chest. "You think I killed them?" she whispered. "You think I lured them in, took what I wanted, and made them vanish?" He swallowed hard. "Where are they, Zara?" She sighed, stepping back. "You're looking at this all wrong." She walked to a large mirror that stood against the wall. "Come closer." Hesitant, Kwesi approached. "Look," she instructed. And he did. At first, he saw nothing unusual, just his own reflection, his tired eyes, his tense expression. But then, the shadows began to shift. A coldness filled the air. And behind Zara, something moved. Kwesi's breath caught. The mirror wasn't just reflecting them, it was showing them. The men. The missing ones. Their faces emerged from the darkness, their eyes hollow, their mouths open in silent screams. They weren't dead. They weren't alive. They were trapped. His blood turned to ice. "What is this?" he choked out. Zara turned to him, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "This," she said softly, "is what happens when men take more than they are given." Kwesi stumbled back. You did this." "They did this to themselves." Her voice was calm, almost sad. "They wanted me. Not as a person, but as a possession. They thought they could have me, own me. But power doesn't belong to men like them." She gestured to the mirror. "So now, they belong to me." Kwesi's pulse thundered in his ears. This was impossible. This was madness. He needed to run, to get out of this place, to expose the truth. But Zara was watching him, her eyes knowing. "You came here for answers," she said. "Now you have them." His breath was shallow. "Let them go." Zara laughed softly. "And if I do? What then? You think they'll return to their lives? Do you think they deserve to?" Kwesi's mind raced. He had uncovered the truth, but now he was standing at the edge of a dark abyss, staring into something he couldn't comprehend. Zara stepped forward. "You have a choice, Kwesi." "What choice?" he whispered. She smiled. "Stay with me. Learn. Or walk away and forget everything you saw." The room felt smaller, the air thicker. He wanted to run. But somehow, he already knew, no matter what he chose, he would never be the same again. And the men in the mirror would never be free. Kwesi had never been a man who believed in superstition. He was logical, practical. He trusted what he could see and prove. But now, standing in Zara's penthouse, with shadows whispering around him and the air growing unnaturally cold, he realized that some truths could not be explained. Zara sat across from him, her body trembling, her usually confident demeanor shattered. Her beauty was still there, untouched, but something about her looked weary, like a woman carrying the weight of too many souls. "You know the truth now," she said quietly. Kwesi swallowed hard. His pulse pounded in his ears. He had spent months trying to find out what happened to the men who slept with Zara, and now he knew. They were claimed, taken by an ancient force that fed on them. And Zara? She was both the prisoner and the executioner. "How do we stop this?" he asked. "How do we break the curse?" Zara looked away, her fingers tightening around the silk robe she wore. "The priestess," she whispered. "The one who cursed me. She's the only one who can undo it." Kwesi's mind raced. "Where is she?" Zara hesitated, then finally met his eyes. "Dead." Kwesi's breath caught. The only person who could lift the curse was gone? Then this was hopeless. But Zara shook her head, sensing his thoughts. "There's another way," she admitted, her voice almost breaking. "But it's complicated." Kwesi leaned forward. "Tell me." Zara let out a slow, shaky breath. "I have to willingly give up everything this curse has given me. My beauty, my wealth, my power. Everything." The words hung in the air between them. It was a simple answer, yet it carried a cost too heavy for most to bear. Kwesi understood immediately. Zara's entire life had been shaped by this curse. She had built an empire on it. Her beauty was the reason men threw themselves at her, the reason they showered her with wealth. She had power, influence, status, all because of the curse. To break it meant giving it all up. And in doing so, she would no longer be Zara Mensa, the untouchable goddess. She would be ordinary, perhaps even worse. She might lose everything. Before Kwesi could respond, the air in the room shifted. The lights flickered. A cold wind howled through the penthouse, even though the windows were shut. And then, the voices came. Low, whispering at first. Then louder. Desperate. Angry. Male voices. Kwesi turned, his blood running cold. The shadows in the corners stretched, twisting unnaturally. Then, out of the darkness, they emerged. The missing men. Their faces were twisted in agony, their eyes hollow, their bodies half real, half shadow. They weren't alive, but they weren't fully gone either. "Zara," one of them hissed. She gasped, stumbling back. "You did this to us," another voice groaned. Kwesi's chest tightened. He recognized one of the spirits. His cousin, Kojo. Kojo's eyes locked onto Kwesi. "She fed us to the darkness. Now she has a choice, give up her power or keep killing." Zara's body shook. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. "I didn't know it would be like this." The spirits moved closer. No more excuses. Kwesi turned to Zara. "You have to end this." Tears welled in her eyes. Fear. Uncertainty. Conflict. She had spent years using the curse. Even if it was unintentional, she had benefited from it. Could she really let it all go? What if breaking the curse didn't just take her beauty? What if it took more? What if it took her life? Zara had always been strong. She had survived betrayals, heartbreaks, and loneliness. But this was the hardest decision she had ever faced. She looked at Kwesi. He was different from the others. He didn't want her body. He didn't want her money. He wanted the truth. Maybe that's why she trusted him. Maybe that's why, deep down, she knew she couldn't keep running. Her hands clenched into fists. Her body trembled. She took a step toward the spirits, then another. "What do I have to do?" she whispered. The spirits loomed closer, their voices overlapping. "Sacrifice," they murmured. "You must give up what was never yours to begin with." Zara inhaled sharply. She knew what she had to do, and she was terrified. She turned to Kwesi one last time. "If I do this, will you stay?" Kwesi's heart ached. He had come here for answers, for justice. But now, he saw something else. A woman trapped in a nightmare she never chose. He reached for her hand. "I'll be here." Zara closed her eyes. And then, she let go. A scream tore through the room. Not from Zara, but from the curse itself. The spirits wailed as the energy around Zara shifted, cracked, shattered. A force pulsed through the penthouse, rippling like a storm, breaking the chains that had bound her for years. Her body convulsed, her skin glowing as something dark and ancient was ripped away. The spirits groaned, some in relief, some in anger, before vanishing into the shadows, set free at last. Zara collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. Kwesi rushed to her side. "Zara!" She blinked up at him. Her face was the same, but something was different. She looked human. No more unnatural glow. No more eerie beauty that drew men in like a spell. Just a woman. A real woman. Tears slid down her cheeks, but she smiled. "It's over," she whispered. Kwesi exhaled, relief washing over him. But just as he was about to help her up, Zara frowned. She touched her chest, her breath hitching. Her fingers trembled. Something was wrong. The price had been paid. But was it too high? The room was eerily quiet. The energy that had once pulsed through Zara's body was gone. She sat on the floor, her breathing uneven, her fingers trembling as she touched her face. Something felt different. Kwesi knelt beside her, searching her expression. "Zara, are you okay?" She swallowed hard, trying to find the words. Was she okay? The curse was broken, the spirits gone. But something inside her still felt unsettled. She looked at her reflection in the glass window. Her beauty was still there, but it was different now, real. No longer enhanced by dark magic. No longer a trap. She exhaled slowly. "I think so." But before she could say more, the air shifted. A deep, low hum vibrated through the walls, like the growl of an unseen beast. The shadows in the room, the very ones that had just seemed to disappear, began to crawl back. Kwesi's eyes widened. "Zara, what's happening?" She turned to him, fear flashing in her eyes. "I don't know." Then, a voice. Low, ancient, hungry. "You cannot walk away so easily." The temperature in the room plummeted. The glass windows cracked. A force, unseen yet suffocating, wrapped around them, pressing against their chests. Zara gasped. "No, it's over. I broke the curse." A dark chuckle rippled through the air. "Did you really think it would be that simple?" Kwesi's instincts screamed at him to run, but his feet wouldn't move. It felt like invisible hands were holding him in place, forcing him to watch. The entity, the one that had fed on men through Zara for years, was not gone. It had simply been waiting. Zara clutched her chest as the pressure around her tightened. The air grew heavier, like something was sinking its claws into her very soul. Kwesi lunged forward, grabbing her arms. "Zara, fight it." She tried, but something deep inside her resisted. The curse had been more than just magic. It had been a contract. A deal sealed in blood and desire. And now that she had broken it, The entity wanted compensation. You were mine, the voice whispered, silky and cruel. You still are. Zara squeezed her eyes shut. I never agreed to this. I never wanted. You enjoyed it, the voice interrupted. The power, the men, the control. You embraced it. And now, you want to leave. Kwesi's jaw tightened. He could see the panic in Zara's eyes. The fear. But there was something else too, doubt. The entity was right. Zara had lived with the curse for years. It had given her everything. Even though she hated it, even though it had ruined her, a part of her had clung to it. And now, it was demanding to know, did she really want to let it go? Kwesi shook her. Zara, listen to me. You have a choice. The voice laughed. No, she doesn't. A wave of dark energy surged through the room, knocking Kwesi off his feet. He crashed against the wall, groaning as pain shot through his back. Zara let out a choked scream. The force around her was dragging her back, pulling her into the shadows. Kwesi pushed himself up, ignoring the pain. His heart pounded. He couldn't let this happen. Not after everything. He had come looking for the truth. And now, he was staring into something much worse than he had ever imagined. Kwesi wasn't a fool. He knew that if he didn't do something now, Zara would be lost forever. And he knew what he had to do. The entity thrived on Zara's doubt. It was feeding on her fear, her uncertainty. If she hesitated for even a second longer, she would belong to it again. Kwesi stumbled forward, reaching for her hands. Zara, look at me. She lifted her head, her eyes dark with confusion and fear. You have to choose, he said, gripping her tightly. Not just say the words. You have to mean it. Tears slid down her cheeks. I don't know how. Yes, you do, Kwesi said. His voice was firm, steady. You've spent your whole life thinking you had no control. But this time, you do. The darkness shuddered, as if sensing its hold slipping. You're lying to yourself, the entity hissed. You want me. You need me. Zara's breathing was ragged. Her fingers tightened around Kwesi's. I don't need you, she whispered. The darkness coiled. Lies. Zara shook her head. No, I don't need you. The pressure around her weakened. Kwesi felt it too. The grip of the entity loosening, the energy around them flickering. But it wasn't enough. Zara had to do more than reject the entity. She had to renounce it completely. She took a deep breath. I give it all up. The shadows screamed. I don't want the power. I don't want the beauty. I don't want any of it. The force around her shattered. A deafening roar ripped through the room, shaking the walls. The entity thrashed, its voice turning into a shriek of pure rage. And then, it broke. The darkness exploded outward, vanishing into nothingness. The air turned still. The cold vanished. And Zara collapsed into Kwesi's arms. Kwesi held her tightly, his own body trembling. He had never been so afraid in his life. Zara's breathing was shallow, her body limp. Zara, he whispered. She stirred, then slowly opened her eyes. For the first time since he had met her, she looked free. Tears welled in her eyes, but this time, they weren't of fear. I'm still here, she murmured. Kwesi let out a shaky breath, pressing his forehead against hers. Yeah, you are. A silence stretched between them, heavy yet peaceful. Zara reached up, touching her face. Her beauty was still there, but it no longer felt unnatural. She felt human. And for the first time in years, she was truly herself. Kwesi pulled away, studying her. What happens now? She exhaled. I don't know. And maybe that was okay. She had spent years being something she never truly chose. Now, she had a chance to decide who she wanted to be. For the first time in her life, she was free. And as she looked at Kwesi, she realized something else. She wasn't alone.